Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna. Jai Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jai Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Gopijana Vallabha Girivaradhari Gopijana Vallabha Girivaradhari Yashodanandana Brajajana Ranjana Yashodanandana Brajajana Ranjana Yamuna Tira Vanachari Yamuna Tira Vanachari Jai Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jai Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jai Gopijana Vallabha Girivaradhari Jai Gopijana Vallabha Girivaradhari Yashodanandana Brajajana Ranjana Yashodanandana Brajajana Ranjana Yamuna Tira Vanachari Yamuna Tira Vanachari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Hare Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Jai Radha Madan Mohan, Radha Madan Mohan Radhe. Jaya Jagannath, Jaya Jagannath, Jaya Baladev, Jaya Subhadra. Jai Gaura Nitai, Gaura Nitai, Gaura Nitai, Jai Gaura Nitai. Jai Jai Prabhupada, 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 Prabhupada. Nitai Gaura Haribol, 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 Haribol. Jai Vishnupada Paramhamsa Parivrajakacarya Stotra Sata Sri Srimad His Divine Grace Lavai Charanaravinda Bhakti Vedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Jai Vishnupada Paramhamsa Parivrajakacarya Stotra Sata Sri Srimad His Divine Grace Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Goswami Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Ananta Koti Vaishnava Vrinda Ki Jai. नामाचार्य श्री हरिदास ठाकुर की जय। प्रेम से कहो श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधार श्रीवास आदि गौर भक्त वृंद की जय। श्री श्री राधा कृष्ण गोप गोपीनाथ श्याम कुंड राधा कुंड गिरि गोवर्धन की जय। ब्रजभूमि श्री वृंदावन धाम की जय। नवद्वीप श्री मायापुर धाम की जय। पुरुषोत्तम क्षेत्र श्री जगन्नाथपुरी धाम की जय। गंगा माँ यमुना माई की जय। वृंद देवी तुलसी महारानी की जय। श्री हरि नाम संकीर्तन की जय। श्रील प्रभुपाद ट्रांसेंडेंटल बुक डिस्ट्रीब्यूशन की जय। The most merciful Lordship Shri Shri Radha Madan Mohan Ji ki jai. The most merciful Lordship Shri Shri Jagannath Baladev Subhadra Maharani ki jai. The most merciful Lordship Shri Shri Gaunithai ki jai. Granthara Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai. Samaveta Gaura Bhaktabanda ki jai. Thai Gaur Premanande. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories, all glories, all glories to Shri Guru and Gauranga. All glories to Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Narayanam Namaskrutyam Naram Shaiva Narottamam Devim Saraswatim Vyasam Tato Jayamudiraye. Nashtaprayeshu bhadreshu Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya Bhagavati Uttamaśloke Bhaktir Bhavati Naishtiki. Today we are reading from Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 4, Chapter 24, entitled Chanting the Song Sung by Lord Shiva, text number 64. Srishtam Swasaktyedam Anupravishta. Srishtam Swasaktyedam Anupravishta. Chaturvidham Puram Atmam Sakhena. Chaturvidham Puram Atmam Sakhena. Atho vidustam purusham santamanta. Atho vidustam purusham santamanta. Bhungte rushikair madhusara ghamya. Bhungte rushikair madhusara ghamya. Srishtam Swasaktyedam Anupravishta. Chaturvidham Puram Atmam Sakhena. Atho vidustam purusham santamanta. Bhungte rishikair madhusara ghamya. Srishtam Swasaktyedam Anupravishta. Chaturvidham Puram Atmam Sakhena. Atho vidustam purusham shantamanta. Bhungte rishikair madhusara ghamya. Srishtam Swasaktyedam Anupravishta. Chaturvidham Puram Atmam Sakhena. Atho vidustam purusham santamanta. Bhungte Rushikair Madhusaraghamya Srishtam Swasaktyedamanupravishta Chato Vidham Puramatmam Sakena Atho Vidustam Purusham Santamanta Bhungte Rushikair Madhusaraghamya Srishtam Swasaktyedamanupravishtas Chato Vidham Puramatmam Sakena Atho Vidustam Purusham Santamanta Bhungte Rishikair Madhusaraghamya. Any Matajis? Srishtam, in the creation, Swasaktya, by your own potency, Idam, this cosmic manifestation, Anupravishtaha, entering afterward, Chaturvidham, four kinds of Puram, bodies, Atma Amshakena, by your own part and parcel, Atho, therefore, Viduhu, know, Tam, him, Purusham, the enjoyer, Santam, existing, Antaha, within, Bhungte, enjoys, Hrishikaihi, by the senses, Madhu, sweetness, Saragham, honey, Yah, one who. Translation and purport by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Translation. My dear Lord, after creating by your own potencies, you enter within the creation in four kinds of forms. Being within the hearts of the living entities, you know them and know how they are enjoying their senses. The so-called happiness of this world, of this material creation, is exactly like the bee's enjoyment of honey after it has been collected in the honeycomb. Please repeat. My dear Lord, after creating by your own potencies, you enter within the creation in four kinds of forms. Being within the hearts of the living entities, you know them and know how they are enjoying their senses. The so-called happiness of this material creation is exactly like the bee's enjoyment of honey after it has been collected in the honeycomb. Purport. The material cosmic manifestation is an exhibition of the external energy of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. But because dull matter cannot work independently, the Lord Himself enters within this material creation in the form of a partial expansion, Paramatma, and He enters also by His separated parts and parcels, the living entities. In other words, both the living entities and the Supreme Personality of Godhead enter into the material creation just to make it active, as stated in Bhagavad Gita 7:5. Jai Shri Shri Gaunithai, Shri Shri Radha Madan Mohan, Shri Shri Jagannath Baladev Subhadra Maharani Ki Jai. Apareyamitastvanyam prakritim vidhi me param jiva bhutam mahabhaho yedam dharyate jagat. Besides this inferior nature, O mighty armed Arjuna, there is a superior energy of mind, which consists of all living entities who are struggling with the material nature and are sustaining the universe. Since the material world cannot work independently, the living entities enter into the material manifestation in 4 different types of bodies. The word Chaturvidham is significant in this verse. There are 4 types of living entities born within this material world. Some are born by the way of an embryo, Jarayuja, by the way of eggs, Andaja, perspiration, Svedaja, and like the trees by the way of seeds, Udbhijaja. Regardless of how the living entities appear, they are all busy in the pursuit of sense enjoyment. The materialistic scientists' contention that living entities other than human beings have no soul is nullified herein. Whether they are born through the embryo, eggs, perspiration, or seeds, all living entities in the 8.4 million species of life are parts and parcels of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And each, therefore, is an individual spiritual spark and soul. The Supreme Personality of Godhead also remains within the heart of the living entity, regardless of whether the living entity is a man, animal, tree, germ, or microbe. The Lord resides in everyone's heart, and because all living entities who come to this material world do so in order to fulfill the desire for sense enjoyment, the Lord directs the living entities to enjoy their senses. Thus, the Paramatma, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, knows everyone's desires, as stated in Bhagavad Gita, Sarvasya chaham shrudi sannivishto matta smrutirjnanam apohanam cha. I am seated in everyone's heart, and from me come remembrance, knowledge, and forgetfulness. Remaining within the hearts of all living entities, the Lord bestows remembrance by which the living entities can enjoy certain things. Thus, the living entities create their enjoyable honeycombs and then enjoy them. The example of the bees is appropriate because when bees try to enjoy their honeycomb, they have to suffer the bites of other bees because bees bite one another when they enjoy honey. They are not exclusively enjoying the sweetness of the honey, for there is also suffering. In other words, the living entities are subjected to the pains and pleasures of the material enjoyment, whereas the Supreme Personality of Godhead knows their plans for sense enjoyment, is aloof from them. In the Upanishads, the example is given of 2 birds sitting on a tree. One bird, the jiva or living entity, is enjoying the fruits of the tree, and the other bird, Paramatma, is simply witnessing. In the Bhagavad Gita 13:23, the Supreme Personality of Godhead as Paramatma is described as Upadrishta, the overseer, and Anumanta, the permitter. Thus, the Lord simply witnesses and gives the living entity sanction for sense enjoyment. It is the Paramatma also who gives the intelligence by which the bees can construct a hive, collect honey from various flowers, store it, and enjoy it. Although the Paramatma is aloof from the living entities, he knows their intentions and he gives them facilities by which they can enjoy or suffer the results of their actions. Human society is exactly like a beehive, for everyone is engaged in collecting honey from various flowers or collecting money from various sources and creating large empires for common enjoyment. However, after these empires are created, the bites of other nations have to be suffered. Sometimes nations declare war upon one another, and the human beehives become sources of misery. Although human beings are creating the beehives in order to enjoy the sweetness of their senses, they are at the same time suffering from the bites of other persons or nations. The Supreme Personality of Godhead as Paramatma is simply witnessing all these activities. The conclusion is that both the Supreme Personality of Godhead and the Jivas enter into this material world. However, The Paramatma, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, is worshipable because he has arranged for the happiness of the living entity in the material world. Because it is the material world, however, no one can enjoy any kind of happiness without inebriety. Material enjoyment means inebriety, whereas spiritual enjoyment means pure enjoyment under the protection of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Om Ajnanatimandasya Jnananjanashalakhaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Shri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kada Mayam Dadati Swapadantikam Vansha Kalpatarobhyasya Kripa Sindhubhe Vacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha. Jai Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Srivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda. Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Mukam karoti vachalam phangam langayate girim Yatkripatamaham Vande Shri Gurum Dinatarinam. The kind of detailed analysis that is given by Srimad Bhagavatam is unfound in any other scripture probably, and the kind of explanation given by Srila Prabhupada to such wonderful verses of Srimad Bhagavatam is unfound in any other commentary probably. That is why it's a great boon to have Srila Prabhupada's purports for this world to understand the absolute truth. So in these verses chanted by Lord Shiva about the Supreme Personality of Godhead, the greater analysis that is given, presented, which was in a seed-like form, it was presented in Bhagavad Gita, but in Bhagavatam it is expanded further. Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita, as Srila Prabhupada quoted in this, Apareyam atastvanyam prakrutim vidhime param jiva bhutam mahabaho yeyedam dharyate jagat. This world is sustained because the Lord has entered along with his expansions. That is why this world is sustaining. In fact, any body sustains unless the jiva or the source of life energy enters into that particular thing, it doesn't sustain. So, we see that this world has no movement unless a life energy moves it. So there must be life force behind everything. And if the scientists say that, this whole creation is happening because of the combination of certain chemicals, and there is no life source behind that, it is a very, very foolish argument, which Srila Prabhupada thwarted that argument. And Prabhupada many times said, if it is so, why don't you bring in some chemicals and then bring life energy from that? If it is so. So in this prayer, Lord Shiva is saying that, my dear Lord, you enter into the material world. You create this material world, and then you enter into the material world to maintain this material world. You enter along with the jivas. The jivas enter for a different purpose, you enter for a different purpose. The jivas are entering into the material world to enjoy, whereas Krishna enters into the material world as Paramatma to supply that enjoyment to the jivas and witness their activities, remember what they want. And just like a father, when the child comes to the father and asks the father, I want this, I want this, I want this, then the father nicely supplies those things to the child. Sometimes what the child asks may not be so very good for the child, but still Father gives those things, thinking that later this child will realize. Similarly, the Lord, when He stays in our heart as Paramatma, as Bhagavad Gita says, there are two functions the Lord carries when He sits in our heart as Paramatma. Sarvasya chaham hrudi sannivishtaha matta smritir jnanam apohanam cha. Krishna is saying in Bhagavad Gita, I am sitting in everyone's heart. Sarvasya chaham hridi. Where is that he is sitting? He is sitting in the region of heart. Hridi sannivishtaha. And then what does he do? Matta, from me comes smritim, remembrance, jnanam, knowledge, apohanam, forgetfulness. These things Krishna gives. Apart from these three things, two other things that Krishna is doing as Paramatma. What are those other two things? Upadrashtamcha, anumantancha. Upadrashtamcha means he very carefully observes our desires. And then according to the desires, he makes arrangements for us to enjoy those desires. So he sanctions also. Okay, take this and enjoy this. So this is the activity of the Lord as Paramatma. Many people, they don't understand these things because they've never studied or never practiced the understanding of God consciousness under a bona fide spiritual master. They speculate and then simply accuse the Lord. Simply say that, God has given me this difficulty, this difficulty. Where is it said in Bhagavatam or Bhagavad Gita, God gives difficulty? Rather, God is giving all facilities for you to enjoy. Whatever you want, God is giving you. Upadrishtamcha anumantamcha. He is observing your desires, sanctioning your desires. Observing and sanctioning. And even if you sanction something to someone, till that person knows that I have this desire, he cannot enjoy that. So he gives the remembrance. Hey, in this lifetime, you desired this. So now I am supplying this. Now you enjoy. How merciful the Lord is. So instead of appreciating the Lord's service attitude towards the living entities, we simply blame the Lord. When we have nobody to blame, then there is one person whom we blame all the time. That is the Lord. So this is such an ignorant attitude the living entity has towards the Supreme Lord. Lord has to be glorified. Even a Paramatma function does this. You can imagine how much the Bhagavan function of the Lord does. Because Lord is there in three forms. Vadanti tat tattva vidasya jnanam advayam brahmeti paramatmeti bhagavan iti sabdyate. This is just only a partial manifestation of the Lord, this Paramatma. The real exchange of love that can happen between the living entity and the Lord is there in the spiritual world. So, Srila Prabhupada is giving the example of first, we will discuss the four kinds of living entities who enter into this world. Chaturvidha, it is said. So, four kinds of living entities enter into this world. How they enter, Prabhupada is describing. One is Jarayuja. Jarayuja means through the womb of a mother. They come from the womb of the mother. That is one type of living entities. So, not only just human beings, but there are other animals also produce the living entities through the womb. So this is one type of birth. Another type of birth is through eggs, andaja. So we have seen how different living entities come through the eggs. And another kind of birth comes from svedaja. Sveda means perspiration. We don't know so many microbes are there in our perspiration. Not only from our perspiration, from any perspiration that happens. That is Svedaja. You can say Svedaja as Jalaja. Jalaja means, Sveda is nothing but Jala. Jala means water. So from water comes many living entities are produced. And then the other one is Udbijaja. Udbija means from seeds come different living entities. Like the different kinds of trees, plants, all these living entities, they are coming by bija. Different aquatics are coming by eggs. And animals and human beings are coming by different by the womb of the mother. So like this, different 8.4 millions, 84 lakhs of living entities are coming to this material world, pursuing their enjoyment. And they are trying different things to enjoy. As human beings, if you cannot enjoy, then you want to become a devata. And if you cannot enjoy sufficiently, then you try to go forward. And if you get frustrated, you come down, being cursed by a rishi or someone. And then, aquatics, birds, all these different living entities are trying to enjoy their particular sense enjoyment. What is tickling for the human beings may not be tickling for the birds. What is sense enjoyment for animals may not be sense enjoyment for aquatics. Because different objects of enjoyment are created by the Lord for the enjoyment of different living entities. So that is the whole material creation is all about. But still, although all these facilities are created, Lord has to enter. Without He entering into it, those facilities cannot be enjoyed by the living entities. So it is said, Lord is like others also coming, but He is the supplier of the enjoyment of all the living entities. Nityo Nityanam Chetanas Chetananam Eko Bahunam Yo Vidadhati Kamam. That one person is supplying the enjoyment for all the other living entities. So this is the function of the Lord. That is being glorified by Lord Shiva here. That without you entering into the... So one may say, why the Lord has to come? The desire is for the living entities. Lord is not desiring to enjoy. Only living entities want to enjoy. So they can be injected. Lord can be there. Why He has to come as Paramatma? But that is what is explained by Srila Prabhupada. The living entities independently cannot enjoy because they don't remember what they wanted. So Lord has to come into each of these species. He has to come. Even as a microbe, if you become a microbe, Lord has to enter into the microbe's heart as Paramatma. And remind that microbe, the living entity in the body of microbe, you see, he wanted to enjoy like this, this is where it is. Take it. So, Lord is simply assisting the living entities to fulfill their desires. He's such a beautiful, wonderful Lord He is. So, so this is the function of Paramatma. But then, after all these arrangements are made, whether the living entities can nicely enjoy, they cannot nicely enjoy. And Prabhupada is giving, as mentioned in this verse, it is like a honey beehive. Beehive. Beehive means a place where honey is deposited by the honeybees, and they wanted to enjoy it little by little, little bit by little bit, little bit. They want to enjoy. They squeeze the honey from the flowers and they store that honey in the beehive and intermittently come and try to enjoy that honey. Oh, that's nice. Nice, good storage is there for enjoyment. But the problem is that while trying to enjoy that honey, the bees fight with each other. They bite each other. So more than enjoyment, there is so much of fear. Who will bite when? Prabhupada mentioned, he gave an example. Just see, you throw some grains and the birds will come, and while eating it, they're always anxious to see like this, like this, like this. That means more fear is there than the enjoyment of the grains. That is what this material world is all about. You want to enjoy? Buy one, get one free. What is that? You want to enjoy? You have to suffer. And what is that suffering? Bhaya. That bhaya is created immediately because that is not our nature. Our nature is not to enjoy independent of God. Our nature is to enjoy with God. That is the problem. So we have come here to enjoy independent of God. Krishna bahirmukha bhogavanchakuri. The jiva has come here turning his face away from Krishna. So naturally what is associated along with this enjoyment is bhaya. The bhaya of other living entities. So three kinds of kleshas are there. Adi bhautika klesha, Adi adhyatmika klesha, Adi daivika klesha, Janma mrityu jara vyadhi. All these things are associated with the living entities, apart from many other sources of misery. The time is one which actually decays everything. Enjoyment is there, but enjoyment is slowly dwindling, dwindling, dwindling. So, in this way, we see this beautiful example of honeybees is very, very nicely described by Srila Prabhupada. As Prabhupada is saying, honeybee, everyone knows how honeybee is formed. Probably the younger generation do not know how the honeybee is formed because they must have not seen a honeybee. Everything they have seen in the computer screen only. They have not actually seen anything. If you go, it's very, very threatening to see a honeybee because a little bit of disturbance you create, all of them come and attack and sting you. That's it. Many people die also. So they have a workshop how to maintain the honeybees and get honey. And they have a helmet kind of a thing. In that helmet, you have to be very careful how you deal with honeybees. Otherwise, they'll come and sting you and then you'll die. So, what is the concept of honeybee? You go and collect honey and store it in a place and think that I will enjoy it. So, Prabhupada is saying, just like that, infrastructure is created in this world, right? Nice roads, nice buildings, nice cars, nice air conditioning. Everything is created. A lot of money is pumped in for creating infrastructure. And where is that money coming from? From all our taxes. And you create such huge infrastructure for people to enjoy. So when the people come to enjoy that infrastructure, the other people become envious. Just like when Yudhishthira Maharaj, when he became the king of the whole of earth, when he was doing Rajasuya Yajna, he has sent 4 of his brothers in 4 directions and they have conquered everyone. And everyone voluntarily presented their gifts to Yudhishthira Maharaj. And they brought all those gifts to Indraprastha, which was the capital of the Pandavas' empire. So when they were doing this Rajasuya Yajna, Yudhishthira called Duryodhana also. And he gave him a special service. What was the special service? Count all the gifts that he has received from all the kings. This fellow is already burning with envy. And then when he saw all these most exclusive, beautiful gifts that Yudhishthira Maharaj has received, his enmity has increased thousands of times. So this is a common feature that you can see. If anyone is becoming popular, there will be 1,000 people to pull that fellow down. If anyone becomes successful, there will be always envious eyes. Unsuccessful man is not recognized by anyone. But a successful man, in any walks of life, if you are successful, you have thousands of people who are envying you, who wanted to pull you down. There's a funny joke. The joke was, a Chinese man was importing frogs from different places because the frogs are very popular dish in China. So he has a tight containers bringing the frogs from different countries. Big, huge, large containers, goods containers. But one day, one of the assistant of the Chinese man, he saw that this man is ordering frogs from India, and it was not a container which is, closed. It's an open container. So he asked, are we getting dead frogs or what? No, 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 no. We cannot import dead frogs. We have to import live frogs. So then he said, if you are importing live frogs, and if the container is not closed, not even one frog will come from India. Then the Chinese man coolly said, don't worry, even if one frog tries to jump up, other frogs will pull him down. No one frog can be escaped from the container. He was so confident. So it is not special to India, by the way, although it is funnily said about India, but it is probably more for India. And I will tell you a little more for the Telugu people. Because if the Telugu lipi, if you see, the letters are, sits on one another. So they say it more for Telugu people. The pulling down. If somebody is becoming successful, others will pull them down. So this is not just the nature of the Telugu people or Indians. It is just the nature of all the conditioned living entities. Everyone becomes envious of the other person if he becomes a little bit successful. If it smells that he is enjoying, he is happy, immediately there is suffering. So this is the honeybee situation that is being mentioned in this verse. The honeybee is nicely squeezing honey from different flowers, and he thinks that, this is my slot. And he is depositing the honey there. There are no slots maintained there. You cannot have a reserved slot for you in the beehive. You keep depositing honey, and it is your fate whether you will get it or not. You have to fight with all the other fellows. So how beautiful analysis, such a beautiful analysis is given. This is what this material world is. You create infrastructure and facilities, everybody's eyes will fall. Some devotees told me, hey, there was a disturbance in the temple because you have created a lot of assets in the temple. A big, huge manifestation of magnificent temple with so many buildings. So that is why all the eyes fell. If that can happen here, imagine how much it can happen anywhere else. I don't shy away to say this. This is actually the truth. The devotees only themselves told me. Our own devotees said, if you keep it a shabby, little, unrecognized temple, because earlier this temple was considered as not Hyderabad temple, Hyperbad temple. So nobody bothered about it. But when, so many devotees are created, so many facilities, magnificent facilities are created, everybody's eyes fell on it. The same mentality is same. Of course, whether you're doing it for service or whether you're doing it for enjoying the facilities, left to the choice of the individual. I'm not saying that everyone whose eyes fell on this, they want to enjoy the facilities. That's not the point. The point is that you want to use this facility to expand preaching is a different thing. That is nice. And we invite people to come here and use these facilities to expand the preaching. But we don't invite people because this is a nice place. I can get my corner in this place, nice place. It's in the city of Hyderabad, the most happening city, and the center of the city is Abbots. Free lodging, free boarding, and I can, pursue my career from here. There are people who also come for this purpose as well. So the point is that the more facilities that you create in the material world, the more competition comes. Why everyone wants to go to America? Everyone knows why. Why everyone wants to go to America? Why everyone wants to go to London? Because the money is big there. $1 is equivalent to 80 rupees or so. So that's why there is a great competition to go to America. Because the infrastructure is nice there. Everything is abundant. The number of people are less, the land is too much. The density of that place is very less. Whereas in India, the density is like a honeycomb. One little space, so many people come and then they wanted to fight with each other. So this is what is going on in this is a lesson that we have to learn from the material world. You want to create big empires, you will have to see your descendants fighting for those empires. A man creates a big asset for his children only to see his children are fighting for that asset. So that is why an intelligent man will never try to create empire for enjoyment, because he knows that it is going to be a competition amongst the people who wants to enjoy. There is nothing that you can achieve in this material world, only frustration and dukkha, that's all. Just like you can't achieve anything in the toilet. You have to clear your stomach and get out of the toilet as soon as possible. You can't make the toilet as a bedroom. Nowadays they are bringing toilet in the main room, main hall, so that they can sit and watch television also, read newspaper also, smoke cigarette also. Everything they can do sitting on that. Comfortable toilet, comfortable Western commodes they have brought. So that is what we are doing in this material world, trying to create more facilities for enjoyment. The more stress is going to come, the more suffering is going to come, because there are so many competitors to enjoy that facility. So either you develop infrastructure through taxes collected by different individuals, or you try to, create infrastructure through different kinds of societies, trusts. This is how the common money comes, no? Apart from the individual money. There are two kinds of monies. One money is your own selfish purposes, you keep some money, and the other money, a part of it also used for creating facilities for others. But what will happen? It is exactly like a honeybee situation. So, but Prabhupada has created these beautiful temples not for this, not to fight with each other, but use these facilities to expand preaching so that people can come and take shelter of Krishna. So he also created facilities. For what purpose you are creating facility is important. You are creating facility for enjoyment, or you are creating facility for service. Remind people about Krishna. So that is why he did not shy away from creating big, huge temples, because he knew somebody or the other will come and take advantage of these facilities, and they'll become Krishna conscious. So the problem is not creating facility, the problem is what for you are creating a facility. Honeybees deposit a lot of honey only to suffer later. Who steals it later? The man comes, puts fire to it, drives away all the honeybees, collects the honey and drinks himself. That is what this material world is. You do all the hard work, somebody else will come and take it. This Prabhupada said this is called Ajagar Vritti. Ajagar Vritti means the rat will come, with great effort he makes a hole and thinks that he will nicely live in that hole during the rainy season or the winter season, because it will be very comfortable inside. The snake comes, eats the rat, nicely sit there. Without working hard, he nicely sleeps there. This is what this material world is. It may be funny that we are discussing, but actually if you see the truth behind it, we will not endeavor for this so-called making arrangements for enjoyment. Prabhupada also said, we are ajagars. We are doing ajagar vritti. One day Prabhupada was walking in the parks, nice park in US. And then he said, These fellows, they have created these nice parks, and we are enjoying the early morning walk here. Just see, without without putting any effort. So we don't have to create any infrastructure, but we can use the already created infrastructure for service to Krishna. So that is why Brahmanas do not engage in infrastructure creation. Only Kshatriyas engage in that. Brahmanas give them direction how to use that infrastructure. So, so this is what is the material world. One must understand the troubles of the material world. Anytime we are dealing with money, women, and properties, there will be trouble. Because there are always contenders. One beautiful woman who is walking on the street, everybody's eyes will be there on that beautiful woman. Whether beautiful or not beautiful, any woman who is walking. Because for a man, the opposite sex always looks beautiful only, whether she is actually beautiful or not. And if she is walking without protection, that is why the married women, they have, signs. They are already engaged. Otherwise, there will be so much competition. So much competition. So it is not funny, it is actually truth. This is what it is. So that is why Bhagavatam is so beautifully describing how this whole material world is functioning. The Lord is simply witnessing. Simply witnessing. Sakshi. Sakshi means a witness. He is waiting when this fellow will stop this business of enjoyment and turn towards me. Samana kale, samana vrikshe, purusho, nimagno. Nimagno means he is fully absorbed. The living entity is absorbed in eating the fruits. He is not looking at the other bird who is Paramatma. So, this description of Srimad Bhagavatam and Srila Prabhupada purports remind us our duty as human being. We can understand all these things as human beings, but other living entities cannot understand. But understanding these things, we have to intelligently act in this material world. This world is worthy of quitting. It is not worthy of staying. It's worthy of quitting. Intelligently quit. So these are some points for discussion. Anyone has any question or comment, you can share. Anyone? Yes.
Hare Krishna. Thank you, Prabhuji. Prabhuji, when we are hearing about the honeybees, one thought was coming in my mind that we also give the example of honeybees that when the honeybee enters even a filthy place, honeybee will see the rose flower, one rose, and will suck the honey from there. On the other hand, a housefly, even if he enters a garden, will see a small piece of garbage and will go and sit there. So from that, I was thinking that every kind of species has a particular nature. So now here, honeybee is also glorified for one particular nature of finding out the honey, even in a filthy place. And in this particular shloka and purport, we are seeing the other aspect of honeybee, that while taking honey, they also sting. So the question is, Prabhuji, like, although we know we are reading Bhagavatam and we know this philosophy, but still many times it becomes very difficult to overcome our own natures. And it appears that unless somebody goes through that, even though he knows that is bad, the purification may not happen, as we also many times said, the purification is gradual. For example, in the Mahabharata also, the Pandavas were not getting their kingdom. So Krishna would have told them, anyways, the world is to be quitted and ultimately attain liberation and all. But then we saw how the Lord orchestrated the entire war to establish Yudhishthira as the Rajarishi, because there is Kshatriya Swabhava. So the question is like, should a person goes through that purification through his Swabhava, or understand the Bhagavatam directly and just leave it off and directly gets into it.
That depends on that particular living entity's development of his realization. That is why we have these four orders: brahmachari, grahastha, vanaprastha, sannyas. These orders are given so that there is a gradual purification. You are giving the example of Pandavas. Pandavas, Krishna has told Pandavas to fight. He did not ask them, anyway, it is to be quitted one day, so quit. But the point is, the dharma has to be established. You have to go through gradual purification through dharmic way, not in an adharmic way. Adharmic way means, as Krishna said in Bhagavad Gita, swadharmo nidhanam shreyaha paradharma bhayavaha. It is better to be killed while doing one's own duty than adopting paradharma. So the development must be gradual, but at the same time the development must be dharmic. So there's always a balance in this. We can't renounce the world artificially. That is called falgu vairagya. Mukshubhi parityago vairagyam falgu katyate. What is taught to us is yukta vairagya. So the crucial point here is, as you were saying, without the guidance of Bhagavatam, if we do this, we are definitely going wrong. If not in every small decisions, but in every major decision, we must consult Vaishnavas or Bhagavatas, so that our intention becomes purified, our purpose becomes clear with the association of such Bhagavatas. Because the nature is to do something. Nahi kaschit kshanamapi jatu tishtyanti akarmakrut. And the passion is always there. Kamayesha, krodayesha, rajoguna samudbhavaha, mahashano mahapapma vidyena iha vairinam. And we, most of the time, we confuse this passion to be my initiative to serve Krishna. Your initiative to serve Krishna is determined how sattvically you are, situated. Prabhupada did this big, huge movement is created by Prabhupada after 40 years of preparation. Can we do it just like that in 20, just like, in 10 years, 15 years, you become a big, huge universal preacher? You cannot. And if somebody thinks that I can also replicate what Prabhupada did, that is born out of passion. Compassion becomes passion. They are very, similar words. Compassion and passion. Prabhupada's compassion is actually compassion. And we think that we have compassion, but it is actually passion. So this passion has to be guided by a person who has compassion. Then that passion becomes compassion. Without that, it remains not passion, but it degrades to ignorance. So, we have to do dharmika, we have to do our duties. We cannot always quote tyaktva swadharmam bhajana charanam bhujam harer bhajan pakvo pate tato yadi atrakva vabudram abudhamosya kim kovardhamapto bhajatam swadharmataha. That is not the only defining sloka. That also has to be taken in a perspective. Although it is spoken by Narada Muni to Vyasadeva, it has to be taken in a perspective. You can't apply it for everyone. All the people who are coming to the temple, tyaktva swadharmam, tyaktva swadharmam, tyaktva swadharmam. There is nobody to do any duty then. And then what happens? All the brahmacharis will be filled in the temple and they will be like honeybees, quarreling with each other. Sometimes it is very difficult to engage the brahmachari. Brahmachari is, satamarkataha, it is said. Satamarkataha means is equivalent to 100 monkeys. not the brahmachari means. The idle mind without proper engagement is a satamarkata. It's very difficult to control the mind. So that is why these natural duties are given. Okay, you want to enjoy, fine, you work hard, make your money, and then enjoy, so that all the mind is engaged. Today, so many facilities are being created and then people are becoming jobless. Isn't it? As you all know, the computers, now the chat GPT has come. It is bringing tremors in people. A very complex software program is just like that, designed just by putting one command. All the software developers are very much, they are threatened by this and newer technology that is coming. So then what will happen to their minds? If you are not properly engaged, sufficiently engaged, positively engaged, you will have to be negatively engaged. Negative engagement means finding fault, pulling down. The frog example. This is what is going on in this material. Lot of negative energy. All these news channels are increasing. Why? What is this news channel for? The news channel is only for commenting or simply criticizing other fellows. So many news channels are coming. Because they have no other business. Analysis and analysis on the analysis and analysis on the analysis of the analysis. One fellow made one useless statement. There will be 4 fellows who will be, talking about the analysis on that statement in the panel. And there is a live commentary of this. And after some time, there is YouTube analysis also. Can you imagine this craziness that is going on? Because it's all because of idle mind. So there must be positive engagement for each one of us. Without that positive engagement, we are destroying each other. Anything else? Maharaj, you want to make any comment?
Srila Prabhupada given the analogy of honeybee is very proper for the present world also. Prabhupada, any analogy anywhere and all the purpose is excellent. Beyond our imagination it is.
It just enters into the heart. It
true.
makes it crystal clear.
Exactly.
Thank you all very much. Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Granth Raj Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai.